Hey, everybody on LinkedIn, attention recruiting and staffing founders. This live I figured I'd go live to answer a question I just got in my inbox. And the question is Biz Dev the same for staffing as it is in recruiting? I get that question a lot from recruiting founders, people who have direct hire recruiting agencies. That was the question. Is it the same in staffing as it is in direct hire placement? So this question comes often from founders or agency owners of direct hire firms who are looking to get into staffing, which is also called contract. And so we're going to talk about how how it's similar and how it's different, and here's the guide and how to get staffing clients. First, I want to express the importance of going after an anchor client strategy. What does that mean? An anchor client strategy is the strategy that's going to help you to actually build a healthy business and avoid feast or famine cycles, also avoid downturns, possibly in geographic locations or with any one customer. Sometimes we lose clients for reasons beyond our control. Sometimes it's under our control. Sometimes it's because we haven't serviced them properly. But if you are servicing your clients with exceptional service, sometimes they get bought, they get acquired. At one point, Bank of Countrywide Home Loans was my biggest client, and their CEO was the poster child for the financial downfall of 2008. By the way, while they were still our biggest client, and then they were acquired by Bank of America, who got them out of, I think they were in bankruptcy, but B of A got them out. So needless to say, that client went away pretty much overnight. And so because we had an anchor client strategy, we took a big hit, but we were also still in business and still okay in the way that we could bounce back. So anchor clients are what you want to look at when you're creating your sale, when you're really building a business and creating your sales systems. Anchor clients are your clients who are going to be not only your ideal clients, and I guess they are your ideal clients, but they're also going to be able to give you enough business so that each anchor client really could keep the lights on if all the other business goes away. And it's important to have at least 3 anchor clients so that you have a nice mix of business and you're not reliant just on one client. So let's dig in. And if you have any questions, let me know. Let's dig in to the question at hand, and let me see if I can see your comments. Okay. I believe that I can. So if you have any questions, please ask away. And is the screen a little bit dirty? I'm going to wipe my screen here. Okay. So ask away if you have any questions. And if you're watching this after the live, then feel free to ask questions later and I'll pop in and answer them. So you're a recruiting founder and you're thinking about getting into staffing, but how do you do it? Is it the same process? So here's how it works. Okay. So first of all, there is a similar approach. So some people get really nervous about, I don't know how to do staffing. But once you know the basics, and we're not going to talk about this in this video, but once you understand the margins and the business model, and you've decided that you're going to go after a staffing business, also called contracting business, how do you get the business? Is it completely different? Well, yes and no. So one of the no things is that you might have clients who do both. I've had clients over the years, definitely, who do both. They hire some contractors and they hire some full-time people. So it just depends. So you can get clients where you have both a direct hire contract or an RPO arrangement plus staffing. And typically there is a different contract. So you're going to want to have that in place as well. And usually it is called, it's called a master service contract, or whatever you want to call it. But staffing contracts have details such as how long can the contractor, you sometimes called temporary employee, used to be called temps, but how long is the temporary employee? Can they be on contract or assignment until there's until there's a reduced placement fee? So a lot of times if a contractor is placed at a company and say they've worked, you might have in your contract once they've worked, maybe it's once they've worked 1,500 hours, then there is no placement fee. And typically what you can do is you can calculate for what works with your business, what would be equivalent if it were a direct hire placement fee. And of course, you're going to add on, that's the money after that you would profit after the burden. And the burden is the amount of the cost of the payroll of that person. So that's more detailed. We're going to talk about, I'll go back to Biz Dev in this conversation. So, so you want to, but basically you want to know what you're selling. So you want to have a basic idea of what your staffing services are, because those are some questions that somebody might ask, but always don't be afraid. Like I always believe in doing things before you're ready. So don't be afraid of going for it, trying to get the sale, and then you can get clarification later if somebody asks you a question. Don't just give something away because you're nervous or whatever. You just want to you feel like you have to have an answer. Don't do that. I always say if you don't know, because even like what might seem like a minimal margin or difference in pricing might make a huge difference. So there's a lot of different ways to calculate that. But let's talk about how to get the clients. Okay, so you've decided you want to do staffing, and is it a different approach? Well, you can search for staffing clients much like you would for direct hire clients. And this is what I'm going to talk about besides your warm leads, because I always believe if you've ever talked to me, you know, I believe that you have so many warm leads. Nobody has not, that you probably don't even realize where your warm leads are. So I always look for that first. I'm just going to say that. But this is if you're doing outreach, because you probably want to do that simultaneously. But say you're doing outreach and you could also work your warm leads this way. But first of all, you need to find roles that are contract, because how do you know if a company is using contractors or just using your staffing or just hiring straight W-2s or through direct hire? Okay, so in job postings, there's two ways that you can kind of look and get some intelligence here. One is through job. I have no idea why my it's not just Zoom because it happened on StreamYard, but I get all these effects and I kind of love it. I'm kind of here for it. So anyway, job postings, you can notice when you're searching for job postings, if that's the way that you tend to get leads, look for a job posting will state if it's contract. They'll say that it's a contract role. So that's one way to look. You can also, a strategy that I really like to employ is looking at candidates. And as you might be interviewing contractors as well, and look at people who have in their LinkedIn experience that have contractors, and you can search this as well. So if somebody's in contracting roles, then the thing about recruiting, business development, recruiting, staffing in this whole industry is that there are so many dots to connect, because we're working with people, and that is so much of the fun for me. Is it's just this big giant puzzle, right? So like I would look at, okay, say this, I'm looking at this candidate. Maybe I've talked to them. Maybe I want to, I've understood what their career goals are, whatever. So I've talked to them and I can see, well, if I've talked to them, I'll talk about that. And I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions that I will share in a moment. But so you can look at, say you've got a solid contractor, then look at their LinkedIn, because a lot of times contractors like to be contractors. Some people think that everybody's looking for a full-time job. That is not true. Sometimes contractors or temporary employees, that's what they like to do. When I very first how I got into this industry was because I was in London and I was pouring beer at a bar behind the bar for one night. I was terrible at it. No one taught me how to pour a beer. And somebody who was pouring a beer for us said, "How fast do you type?" And then I started temping. But for me, I wanted, and I was in college, so it was like answering phones and stuff. But what I wanted, I only wanted short-term assignments because I wanted to see all of London and and the roles for me weren't that exciting. So to me, that kept it exciting. So there's a lot of different reasons why people prefer to be in contract roles. And you have to be careful about misclassifying employees, but that's a whole other topic. And so you could either be staffing where the contractors are W-2 employees. So when I say contractor, I'm talking about both basically temporary employees. So they're generally employees of the staffing company. Again, whole other topic. And feel free to message me if any of the things that I talk about, if you want to go in more detail. And also in my recruiting domination program, we talk about all this stuff. So like all the specific questions that you have that you get answered through the program. And would love to have you. So let me know if you have any questions about that. Okay. So then also talk to candidates, talk to contractors. And when you talk to them, ask them, first of all, always ask for references. They might not give them, but you want to ask them because those are more clues, right? Like all of these people, everybody in your network is a clue to where your clients and your candidates are hiding and how you can build your business. So you want to ask them. So you say you're talking to a really great contractor, ask them about their work history. Get really curious. I worked with someone who always used to say, get greedy about the details. I don't know if I love that expression, but I really want, if you get curious, because all of these are pieces that you're going to put together and really help you to build out your biz dev for staffing. So you can ask, hey, ask about the contract. So, I saw you're a contract here. Tell me about it. And then listen and take notes. Who was your boss? Like, what was that like? Were they a contractor too? And a lot of times there's like big major projects where everybody's a contractor, even the heads of the project. So yeah, where do you think they are? And you get some ideas. So then by just this conversation, you're going to have a whole list of companies that are using staffing agencies or contractors. There's also a software that actually, it's not even a software, it's a service, and they actually have people figuring out which it's called Agency Leads. If you want information on that, I have a link, and you get a discount with my link. So ask me if you want that. With Agency Leads, they actually find companies that are using agencies for staffing, and they give you the contact information too. So that's pretty handy. I've gotten some great contracts through that. So basically, those are a couple of the things. And then you also want to understand, before you start contacting a client company, you need to understand if they're using an MSP, VMS, or if they're going direct to the agency. So what that means is, a lot of companies, especially enterprise companies, Fortune companies, generally have an MSP in place. So that means like they're contracted with a giant staffing company, like maybe Kelly Services, and all the giant an MSP. And so basically what that means is, when you're working with the client, you're not working directly with the end client. Typically, you're working with the MSP. That's the middleman. These are typically lower margin roles, and so often you're competing against a whole bunch of agencies. Okay, not saying it's not good business, but you have to be set up. Once in one of my companies, we had an entire division where we only did VMS, MSP staffing, but that was all they did, and it was a completely different business model than our high touch boutique staffing. So you have to be set up if you're looking for VMS. Negatives are lower margin. Competing against different agencies takes a really long time to get in. Less access to hiring managers. The pros of working with MSP VMS, well, it makes your company more valuable, because if you want to be set up for an acquisition later, it makes you more valuable because you have these contracts in place, because they're hard to get. You might also you'll have access to generally filling multiple roles within the program. So that's something that you want to decide. You want to decide who your anchor clients are. One scary thing about an MSP, though, I was talking to a staffing firm yesterday, and they had a giant contract, through an MSP, and then the company changed providers, and then so sometimes you can lose all of that business in one fell swoop. So never be dependent on just one main client. Okay. So those are my highlights on how to get staffing clients. It's a little bit different. Sometimes client companies, TLDR, sometimes companies do both, but there are strategies in looking for where those juicy contractor roles are. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions. We're always talking about stuff like this in Recruiting Domination. We are talking online and also on Zoom, where you can interact with other staffing and recruiting founders and ask me all of your pressing questions and get them answered. So thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments and contact me if you need any help building out your staffing or recruiting business.